So, what if I told you that most of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions aren't entirely your own? That every single day there are these invisible architects shaping the very structure of your mind, influencing what you crave, what you fear, and even who you love. Okay, let's really get into this. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This whole explainer is based on a guide for digital detox, and the author did something absolutely brilliant in the table of contents. So be honest, did you notice that most of the chapter descriptions were just, well, they were placeholder text? If you missed it, you are definitely not alone. It was a trick, a trick to prove a point. Our attention is so fragmented now that we just skim right past the very structure of the information we're trying to find. We're losing the ability to focus. And it's not an accident. So how did we get here? That brings us to our first section, the hidden attention game. We're going to explore how your focus, your actual attention, has been put up for sale. It all starts when you understand that in our digital world, your attention has become one of the most valuable commodities on Earth. On average, you probably check your phone about 58 times a day. And every one of those glances, every scroll, every single tap, it's a transaction. You might not be paying with cash, but believe me, you are paying with moments of your life, which are then packaged up and sold. You've probably heard this phrase before, right? And what's so powerful about it is how it just completely flips our idea of what free means. Social media, search engines, video platforms, none of them are free. Their entire business model is built on one thing: capturing and holding your focus for as long as humanly possible so they can sell that focus to advertisers. Your screen time is literally their bottom line. And to maximize that screen time, these platforms have become, well, experts in neuroscience. They aren't just building apps anymore. They are engineering habit loops directly inside your brain. This right here, this is the engine of digital addiction. Just think about it for a second. When you're scrolling, you don't know which video is going to be hilarious or which photo will get a like. That unpredictability is absolutely intoxicating to our brains. It is the exact same psychological principle that makes gambling so incredibly compelling. And this is how it works, broken down into 4 pretty simple steps. It starts with a trigger. Let's say that feeling of boredom. It makes you reach for your phone. Then comes the most important part, anticipation. Your brain releases dopamine, that motivation chemical, before you even get the reward. The reward itself is almost secondary. The real hook is the hope of a reward. And that's what reinforces the loop and makes you want to do it again and again. And this just perfectly illustrates the point. The pull to refresh gesture, that wasn't designed for some technical reason. No way. It was designed to feel exactly like pulling the lever on a slot machine. The physical action, that little tense wait, the unpredictable reward, it's a perfect recreation of a classic addictive mechanism sitting right in the palm of your hand. But the story gets so much deeper. The reason these loops are so ridiculously effective isn't just about clever tech design. It's about a fundamental truth about how our brains actually work and who, or what, is really in control. We all like to think of ourselves as these rational beings, right? Driven by logic. But what if I told you that the conscious thinking part of your mind is actually more of a spokesperson than a CEO? Let me tell you a quick story about a patient named Elliot. He was this successful, really intelligent guy who had a brain tumor removed. The surgery was a success. His IQ, his memory, his logic were all perfectly intact. But the tumor had damaged the part of his brain that processes emotions. And then a really strange thing happened. Elliot became completely incapable of making even the simplest decisions. I mean, he could logically list the pros and cons of where to eat lunch for hours, but he could never, ever choose. What Elliot's case showed the world is that our feelings aren't some noisy distraction from rational thought. They are a necessary component of rational thought. Our emotions give us those gut feelings, the hunches, that actually allow us to make choices. We don't just think our way through life, we feel our way through it. Which brings us to our next section, the deep roots of fear. So, if our decisions are guided by feelings, where do our most powerful feelings even come from? Well, to understand our emotional blueprint, we have to go all the way back to our very first experiences with love and connection. So attachment theory suggests that our earliest bonds form a kind of blueprint. The way we learn to connect with our caregivers when we were infants fundamentally shapes how we expect love to work when we're adults. It creates these unconscious rules that we follow in all of our relationships. Now, what's really fascinating here is the contrast. If a child's caregiver is consistently available and loving, that child develops a secure attachment. They learn deep down that they're worthy of love and that connection is safe. But if that care is inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, the child can develop an anxious attachment. They learn that love is fragile, that it might disappear at any moment, and this creates a deep-seated fear of abandonment. Does any of this sound familiar? That need to ask, do you still love me? Or overanalyzing a text message, assuming the absolute worst when a partner is just quiet? These aren't character flaws. They're often the echoes of an anxious attachment style playing out in our adult lives. It's that childhood blueprint still at work. And this brings us right back to where we started. We've talked about addictive technology, and we've talked about our deepest emotional programming. So what on earth is the connection? How do these two things, a piece of glass in your hand and the deepest fears of your heart, how do they relate? This is it. This is the connection. The variable reward system of social media perfectly hijacks the needs of an anxiously attached brain. That constant, desperate need for reassurance, it's temporarily soothed by a notification. That deep fear of abandonment, it gets triggered by a delayed response to a text. The slot machine in our pocket is so effective because it's playing with the oldest chips in our emotional casino, our fundamental human need to be seen, to be valued, and to know that we are not alone. Okay, this brings us to our final section, taking back control. Now I know, understanding all of this can feel a little overwhelming. It might seem like we're just puppets, pulled by the strings of technology and our own past. But that is not the end of the story. In fact, it's the beginning. Simply knowing, just knowing that these forces are at play is the single most powerful step you can take. Now, when you feel that compulsive urge to check your phone, you can pause and ask yourself, wait, is this me or is this the loop? When you feel a surge of panic in your relationship, you can ask, is this about right now or is this my attachment blueprint talking? This awareness, it doesn't magically solve everything, but it gives you a choice where before there was only a reaction. It puts you back in the driver's seat. The hidden architects of your mind are powerful, for sure, but they aren't invisible anymore. Now that you can see the wires, you can begin to decide which ones to follow and which ones to cut. The real question this leaves us with is, if technology and our childhoods have this much influence, what other invisible forces are shaping who we are? And what can we do, starting today, to become the true architects of our own lives?